Alrighty, so I think we're all ready. So it's just shortly after 7 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order, and the first thing we'll do is stand for a moment of silent reflection. Okay, is there any declaration of patron interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. We had our closed session that happened earlier today. It started at 4:30 and we just ended it shortly before 7 o'clock. We just have one item for the Rising Report, and that is that resolve that Council directs staff to proceed as directed in closed session. Okay, Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, and then we have the minutes of our previous meeting, which is December 16th, 2019. We have a mover and seconder for those. Okay, Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And I just want to note that Deputy Mayor Hendrick, she was in attendance at the closed session, but she's not feeling so well, and she went home for probably the betterment of herself and everybody in the room. So that's where Deputy Mayor Hendricks is. So we have a number of delegations and timed events, and since the first one's at 7:05, which is this time, before we go into the delegation regarding 1425 Melwood Drive, I just want to have our clerk go through her first staff report, which is in regards to the Sydenham Ridge Estates liquor sales license, and I'll have Jennifer go through that so then council can be up to date.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. So if you go down to under staff report C1, that's my report regarding the liquor sales license for Sydenham Ridge Estates at 1425 Melwood Drive. So I have listed the timeline that has taken place since last May, and to date, on December 16th, we received official plan amendment application and a zoning bylaw amendment application that will be heard at the Tuesday, February 18th council meeting. Excuse me. Notices for those two planning applications went out today to meet the requirements as per the Planning Act. And at the February 18th council meeting, Planner Arbesh shall have her planning report regarding those two planning applications. And so during my discussions with Marge Bretton, she wanted to know if we could send, or if I could send another letter off to Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, just to let them know that they're in the process. I have no problem with sending another letter that they're in the process. The only issue is that when you look at my attachments there, under C1, it's very clear that AGCO wants to know if the property owner that's applying for a liquor sales license is in compliance with any bylaws. So I have to clearly state that they're not in compliance until it's been approved, and it won't be approved until after all the appeal periods have been met. So right at this point, there's no known financial impacts to the township budget. The staff reports a summary of events of discussions with the property owner applicant for 1425 Melwood Drive for council's information only. And my recommendation is that council receive my report as presented by myself.
Okay, moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor McKinnon. Is there any discussion at all? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, so with that, I'd like to invite Marge to the table to address us in regards to the Sydenham Ridge Estates liquor.
Thanks, Mayor Smith.
Yep.
I've actually brought my associate Peter and my lawyer Paul Hendricks to speak to this. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to our point of view, and ask that you take it into consideration.
Okay.
Thank you, Council. Good evening. My name is Peter Budd, and want to introduce yourself?
For the record, my name is Paul Hendricks.
Thank you. So, just want to open by saying thank you very much for helping us and moving this matter forward. It's very important to us with the business really sort of getting ready to start again in earnest in May, that we have some clarity and some business certainty in terms of the communications with the clientele as to what we can and are able to offer and what we're able to do. And that's really the theme that I'd like to focus on, is that we're grateful that a letter is showing a degree of support for the liquor license, and thank you for that. In respect of the issue of the zoning, I think when we were here, or I was here in May, I committed to you, the council, that we would get on this planning rezoning matter, and indeed we did. We, just to review a tiny bit of that chronology, I think we met you in May, and then in June, understanding where we were going to go, having made that commitment, we spoke with Mr. Hendricks here and asked him to find us 3 planners that we could interview. We did that in the summertime, interviewing each of them, and then we came to a conclusion which one we would engage. And then we engaged that party in, I think, August, and in the fall their work started in respect of the rezoning, which is not an area of my expertise, but we're quite pleased with the work that was done, and I think the high level of cooperation that's gone on between your staff and our planner person, Casey Kolchicki, I think is his last name. And so we come now to December, and I think we proceeded to send over the report. I committed to you that we would try to get this done by the end of the calendar year, but in any event, I said, as I recall, that we would have this commitment done in a way that would be over by the time the season started. And we needed that because in order to assure the staff and the clientele that we would be having a liquor license, that was a certain number of months that would allow us to get to that point. So we're still confident actually that timing can be met. And so in the spring, of course, in May, the weddings would start, and our hope is that we would have that license in place. And the essence of why we're here is to really ask if you would reconsider a slight redraft to the memo, which would give the AGCO more comfort that we're all going to get this done, and it's on track. And so I've got a letter here to just come to you a moment with, but I wanted to mention that in the Liquor License Act, there's no requirement that zoning be this way, that way, or another way. So that's not their concern. I think when I look at what their concern is, they just want to know the municipality is satisfied with the party that's making the application for the license. And I think you indicated that in your letter of support. And I think it's fair to say that we have now lived up to what we said we would, and will continue to do so through February, because you will have this coming before you in terms of the rezoning at that time. And if a letter could be considered by you after we leave, which I'd like to just read to you just briefly, if I may, this would be helpful. And really what it's asking is for the AG, it's asking for you as council to write to the AGCO and to say to them that you're providing an update in respect of your June 12th letter. And in that letter of June 12th, this letter will say something like, I again confirm that the Council of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has no concerns with the applicant applying for a liquor sales license, which is consistent with what was said the last time. The issue of compliance with the official plan and the zoning bylaw is being addressed through an application to amend these documents to address the permitted uses issues. That application is to be considered at a council meeting on February 18th, 2020. It is the view of the council that no delay need be imposed on the issuance of a liquor license resulting from the issue of non-compliance with the official plan and zoning bylaw. The municipality has its own mechanisms, as you of course do, of enforcement if the amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw are not granted. And that would be a letter we would ask you to consider and then as you see fit. But I think it would do what is needed to give the AGCO the comfort they need, that you're satisfied not only that the application is being made, but that your concern about the rezoning is essentially being looked after, exactly as what was said back in May, and has been carried out to date and filed with you in December. So that's just a letter for you to consider. And and then I would also just mention, if I could, that we asked Mr. Hendricks to do a little bit of research to understand, for your benefit as well as our own, what's the status in Ontario in different places where the zoning may not be conforming with the use. Does that have to stop a liquor license from being issued or not? Are they a rezoning absolutely linked to the intended use, or is it not? And I'm going to suggest that if Mr. Hendricks would just speak to that for a few minutes, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So council, I don't want to tread over the same areas that Peter's already covered, but I will just reiterate that in my reading of the Liquor License Act, I certainly don't see anything that would preclude a license being granted if there's not complete compliance with the zoning and official plan. Obviously, there are requirements that the fire code be in compliance, building code, that sort of thing. And those are clearly set out in the guide to making the application for the liquor license. But and in that guide, I agree, and no doubt you'll see in Ms. Turk's report that there is a suggestion that you investigate the zoning bylaws as you're going through that. But there's nothing that requires it, and I also went and looked for some examples just to give Sydenham Ridge and Sydenham Spirits some level of comfort that when coming here today, they would be able to provide some examples of other operations that have a similar situation. So I've located a few, and one is enterprising South Pond Farms, which is actually located in the Kawartha Lakes region. And it acts as a wedding venue and event space similar to Sydenham Ridge. I can't obtain a copy of the liquor license, but it seems clear from the website and the promotional materials that they have a liquor license in place, and in fact, we contacted them just to confirm that, and they confirmed that there was a liquor license in place. And when you look at the zoning in place at that, for the property, it's zoned agricultural, same as the zoning here, but obviously it's a different zoning bylaw that applies. And when you look at it, it's got things that you would expect to see in an agricultural zoning, agricultural enterprises, single detached dwelling, that sort of thing. And I've got the details in a letter that I prepared, which I'm happy to provide to council following my submissions. So in that case, we've got a current wedding venue and event venue that is not in conformance with the existing bylaws, and at the same time is operating with a permanent liquor license. Similarly, there's a venue called Farm Hill, and this is in the Peterborough area, in one of the small townships just outside the city of Peterborough. And we have the same situation. The website is advertising the different beer and liquor you can have when you have an event there. And it seems quite clear from that material that they as well have a permanent liquor license in place. And when you look at the zoning, it's zoned as a rural zone, and the same types of things, the same types of permitted uses that you would expect are set out there, and nowhere is there a permitted use for an event space. And yet they're able to operate with the liquor license as well. The last example, a little closer to home, in Plimpton, Wyoming, there's Alden Estate Winery and Stone Picker Brewing Company that both appear to be operating with a permanent liquor license, again in a rural zone. And so it would be my submission that, and it may be that all these are examples where the businesses are working to amend the zoning bylaw similar to what we're doing here, but it certainly doesn't seem to be the case that that is a bar to obtaining the liquor license. And so as Peter has set out earlier, we're simply seeking to see if council can support the application by sending another letter to the AGCO. So those would be my submissions. I'll pass it back over to Peter.
Thank you. So it's pretty much there for us tonight. Thank you very much. We would ask you to give some consideration in making your decision to the business that we're trying to run and the certainty we're trying to give our clientele in a few months. Otherwise, the situation would be there will be individual every weekend kind of liquor licenses that would be issued, which we don't think is as positive in terms of being able to manage situations as we could do ourselves consistently. And I think council has known us for a number of years and know that we will live up to what we say we will do. And I think the proof is in the pudding that we will have that ongoing cooperation to tidy up the zoning. As you've brought up in the middle of last year, we were happy to move forward with it. So thank you very much for letting us come forward. If that's all right, at the same time you're providing your letter, maybe we could add that one to your list, which is the suggested wording that might do what needs to be done for the commission.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Is there any questions at all from members of council?
Does your planner have any preliminary report at this stage, or that's not the process? They'll just come in with the final report on the 18th of February?
I believe they've already, help me with that, they've already handed a report. You've had some reasonably extensive discussions, I think, on other suggestions and amendments, and that came in, I believe, in December. And then as recently as today, I think you had some discussions with Erica and yourself. So I think we're really quite far down the path, and in a matter of 3 weeks, you're going to see the final one that will have been, I go on the limb and say, agreed to amongst all the planners. And we just let them go and do their work.
Okay. Is there any other questions at all? Comments? No? No.
Well, just a question for the mayor to Jen. So, is this something that a few word amendments can be possible, do you think? For
I can send it, but the issue is the form that I have to fill out, and when they ask for clearly outline in a separate submission or letter within 30 days of this notification of any zoning or non-compliance with bylaws, that's simply what I state. I stated in a letter that we have no concerns with them applying for a liquor license. The issue is if they are approved, if you remember with the last OPA that we had, it has to go to upper tier because they're the delegated authority, so they still have to give approval, and then there's a 20-day appeal period with that. If that gets approved and the appeal period goes through and there's no appeals, it then comes back for the zoning bylaw to have a third and final reading, and then another 20-day appeal period on our end.
That's precisely why I said that the target date should be December 31st, so that we're not the one with the problem, they're the ones with the gun to their head. So I'm taking a bit of a hard line, and that's why I said December 31st, because people don't tend to get things done unless there's an urgency to it.
So realistically, this comes in. So this will be coming in front of council on February 18th, and then from
20
there,
days, yeah, we should.
then it will be going to county council, which most likely will be the second meeting in March. Or Erin, want to go through the timeline of how that would go?
Yes, sorry
Thank
to interrupt there. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we do OPAs in the two-step process. So it's brought before council on February 18th with an information report, and then the recommendation report comes afterwards, because we do need to have that statutory public meeting as part of the OPA. So that the February 18th meeting is the opportunity for council discussion as well as public input to craft the recommendation report that comes at the following meeting. And then it would be going to county council for final approval.
And that would be most likely in April then.
As far as our timelines go, we're
Just
hoping like late March we can get it to county council.
Okay. Councillor Rowe.
So these other venues that are doing this probably aren't going through a zoning thing. Is that
You
how
can't
they're
assume
allowed
that.
to
And
operate?
the website may not be accurate, right? Like it's all, we're just trying to do it the right way. And I don't want you thinking I'm picking on you, it's just, we have so many properties out there that people are just doing whatever, and it's gotta stop. Like, we need to get a handle on all this stuff.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments for the delegation?
The only thing I wondered, through you, Mayor, to Mr. Budd, you said you were quite confident that the timing could be met for the May business startup, and then you referred to having 3 weeks for your planners. So I just wondered what that was all about and where that time frame came in and how that would impact your zoning.
I'll do my best. So what we tried to do was to meet the December commitment and get the report to the planners in December, and I think we met that self-imposed commitment. I'm very pleased with how it has been going amongst your planning staff and our planners. And what I'm hearing through emails and so forth is it looks like there's a path forward that works. I'll call it this way, no showstoppers. And so my hope was actually between now and the 18th, that's sort of a 3-week period, that Aaron, Erica, and our AC would reach those conclusions. I think I'm seeing that when I look at the detail without asking council to get dragged into the weeds. So when you're able to, of course, discuss that internally with Aaron, I think you'll see where that stands. And I'm confident that that'll all be in great shape, actually, when you get it on February the 18th. And as for the 20 days here and the 20 days there, I'm not really conversant with that. I would expect, of course, there is a process that follows. But I'm equally confident that we should be able to move forward and live up to that commitment of having that rezoning in place before the season starts. That is indeed our hope, so we can provide that. And I believe, based on my experience working with government agencies, that the letter language that I'm proposing here, very forthright with everybody, and having lived up to the commitments, would probably allow the agency to take seriously the municipality's support, knowing that the zoning, rezoning, is actually happening, and that process is real. And that's our hope for this.
Just follow up.
Just to follow up on that, I guess I'm having trouble with it because knowing that your filing is one thing, but whether it's approved or not, or appealed or not, remains to be seen. Someone can appeal the decision if we pass it, so then there's a process. So I'm kind of struggling with the process and what you're asking us to do.
I'll try to answer that. So my view is that, and I'm going to ask Mr. Anderson to speak to it, that somebody appealing some process like that, which could go on indefinitely, ought not to stand in the way of a license being issued at law. I don't think that is a correct interpretation. I think that if the party has lived up to it, and both parties, the council, your planning department, our planning department, are in agreement, and you pass the bylaw, that is, you've spoken, essentially. And if somebody wants to appeal that, that's a process that is separate and distinct, that goes on beyond a liquor license. And so be that, but maybe you'd like to speak to that, because appeals are a different animal.
Yep, and I'd just reiterate what Peter has said, that once the zoning bylaw is passed, then the zoning bylaw amendment, I should say, is passed, that would be the extent of this council's involvement. And then if that's appealed to a higher decision maker, it really doesn't, you would see what comes of it, but that doesn't invalidate the amendment at the time that the appeal is made. It would be, if the appeal is successful.
Thank you.
Just to further add to that, I think Councilor McKinnon, just thinking about your question there, I think the overarching concern that you may have is that if it is appealed and the appeal actually goes through, and it would continue to be the agricultural zone, and technically the business itself is in contravention of the zoning bylaw. So technically, staff would then have to look into whether or not what the next process is. And the fact is that council, yes, you could apply for the zoning or for the liquor license, but the overriding issue would be that it's a business that's being operated in an agricultural zone, which then
Non-conforming.
staff could have the opinion that it's non-conforming, which should cease from being there, I think is what the issue would be, because it's not going through the proper process from the very beginning. I think that is the issue. So that's why we have to make sure that the zoning and the official plan is up to date to make sure that everything is in conformity, so then it can go into the next process of getting the license as requested.
Wasn't this how it all started?
Yeah.
The process, is that why?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think there's any other questions. Thank you so much for coming, and council, I think we'll discuss this either later in this meeting or have staff be directed to prepare another report for the following meeting, which is on February 3rd,
Monday.
this coming Monday. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Council, would you like me to
Yeah.
provide this to anyone specific?
Yeah, Aaron can take those. Perfect.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
This one? Oh, I see. Okay, so we're a little behind schedule, so we do have minor variance application A01 2020 for 720. It's a lot of 20s. So before we begin, as I say, the purpose of the following public hearing for Adelaide Metcalfe Committee of Adjustment is to give the members of council of the Committee of Adjustment as well as the general public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the application before the committee this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If any person or public body files an appeal of the decision made this evening to the local planning appeal tribunal without having made a written submission to the committee, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of a decision, please submit a written request to the township, and a sign-in sheet has been provided for your convenience, which is on the desk in front of you. With that being said, we need a motion to resolve that council convene as the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of hearing minor variance application A01 2020, and that's for 1461 Egremont Drive at 7:31. Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Clark, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And I believe we have Teeny here, yes? Excellent, and you've received a planning report from Aaron?
Yes, I did.
Excellent, so we'll have Aaron go through the report, and then we'll move on from there. Aaron?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So I noticed I've made the first error of 2020 and I have the meeting date as 2019.
Yeah,
That was bound to happen, so
I wasn't going to draw attention.
I'm honest. I'll point out my mistakes
Oh, good.
there. So the first application for council this evening, or committee this evening, sorry, is for minor variance A01 2020. We're looking for relief from the zoning bylaw as it relates to minimum distance separation, or MDS2. The calculation to allow for the construction of an 18,900 square foot expansion to an existing hog operation. So specifically, the applicant is requesting two variances here. The first one being set back to a type A land use, being the nearest neighboring dwelling. The required setback is 575 meters. We're looking for 275 meters. In addition, we're looking for a setback to the side lot line. Required is 30 meters, and we're looking for 15 meters. So the subject lands contain single detached dwelling, 2 hog barns, manure pit, and a shed. The property was subject to a minor variance in 2014, which granted permission to construct the new feeder barn at the rear of the further into the property. It's the larger of the 2 hog barns. So it received a reduced MDS2 setback to the nearest dwelling on that site. There was restrictions or constraints, I'll say, on the property in regards to an existing pipeline, the proximity to the 402 at the rear of the property, and just sort of the topographical layout of the farm itself. So the applicant has indicated that the property owner has constructed several large grain silos to the north and west of the existing barn as part of a grain drying and storage facility, which they intend to expand on in the future. And this further constrains their opportunity to expand the barn away from the nearest dwelling. By expanding the barn to the east, the farmer would also be able to continue using the existing loading area as well as improving efficiencies in their operation. The lands are privately serviced. I'm not going to go into all of my analysis. The subject lands are designated agriculture within the official plan and the general agricultural zone within the zoning bylaw. So as you know, I evaluated the application based on the 4 tests of minor variance and found that I'm satisfied that they conform to the 4 tests. So I'm satisfied in that regards. Consultation, the township's chief building official advised of no concerns. The CA, being Oswald Bakefield, did not have any concerns as well. Neither did the county engineer or anyone from the public. So my recommendation for this application is for minor variance A01-2020 be granted.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Tina, do you have anything you'd like to add at all?
No, that's basically everything what we discussed before.
Okay, thank you. And before we go to comments from the committee, is there anyone in the audience gallery wanting to speak to this application? Seeing none, is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us, and that is for the application to be granted. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Opposed? Not carried. Okay, thank you so much for coming. Okay, and we have a motion to resolve that the committee adjustment be closed at 7:35 p.m. and council reconvene in regular session. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed? Not carried. Which brings us right in line for our next time event, which is the zoning bylaw amendment Z01-2020. So the purpose of the following public hearing for Adelaide Metcalfe Council is to give the members of council as well as the general public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the application before council this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or public body files an appeal decision made this evening to the local planning appeal tribunal without having made a written submission to council, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of the decision, please submit a written request to the township, and a sign-in sheet is provided for your convenience. I think we should have a pre-recording of that, so we push the button, or people can read it through the door. I don't know. So anyways, we need a motion to resolve that the public meeting to hear zoning bylaw amendment Z01-2020 be opened at 7:37. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okie dokie. And I assume the applicant is not in attendance. So Aaron, want to go through the report?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So the zoning application before council this evening is actually requesting a temporary use zoning bylaw. You're probably familiar, we've done several of them in the past. So originally the applicant proposed a permanent rezoning. With discussions with him, I told him that I wouldn't be able to support a full rezoning as we don't permit residential uses within our commercial corridor. So we have amended the application, so you'll notice what was circulated was looking for final approval or full approval, but we're looking for a temporary use in this case. So we're looking to amend the zoning of the subject lands from corridor commercial to include a temporary use provision symbol in order to allow for residential use of the existing building. This zoning would be in effect for 3 years, at which time the lands would return to the underlying commercial corridor. The applicant has indicated that they have been unsuccessful in securing a commercial tenant in the existing structure and therefore wishes to rent the property for residential purpose on a temporary basis in order to help cover the costs of owning and maintaining the property himself. And again, upon discussion with myself, we determined that the temporary use would be the best way to go for this. Subject lot is designated as a settlement area within the county official plan, commercial corridor within Adelaide Metcalfe official plan, and zone commercial corridor within the Adelaide Metcalfe zoning bylaw as well. So within the corridor, commercial corridor within the official plan, residential uses are not permitted. So that really had an effect on my analysis for the full rezoning. However, the temporary use zoning is a mechanism that we are able to use when looking at things that do not conform to the zoning as it stands. So that's the avenue that we've decided to go with. The application was circulated to the prescribed agencies. The chief building official indicated that a change of use permit would be required to ensure the upgrades to the early warning and evacuation system meets the standards for the Group C occupancy, since it is converting from a commercial use potentially to a residential use. The county engineer indicated no concerns, neither did the municipality of Stratford Caradoc or the Conservation Authority. We also did not receive any comments from the public or surrounding landowners. So we're also looking to maintain the underlying commercial zoning of the property, as the applicant has indicated to staff that the ultimate intent of the property will be to develop for commercial purposes. However, the temporary use bylaw will allow immediate occupancy to assist in the financial operations of the site. So I did take a look at compatibility with neighboring properties. Dashwood Industries to the north, manufacturers of windows and doors. I do believe that there is some significant distance between the actual plant itself. There's a parking lot in between, and I don't anticipate any noise concerns from that use on the potential residential use. Directly adjacent to the south is the Tim Hortons quick service restaurant. While compatibility issues, there's the opportunity for, or the potential for those. However, it is an existing use. Anyone who looks to rent the property would be aware of what's there. And you know, if it does become a problem, I have indicated to the applicant that you know, it would be in his best interest to put up a noise wall or a noise fence or do some sort of mitigation if problems do arise. So ultimately, I'm in support of the application. I am recommending that it be approved. And further, that the council proceed with the first, second, and third reading of the implementing bylaw, which has been drafted for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, I guess we'll close the public meeting and then we'll discuss. So, a motion to resolve that the public meeting to hear zoning bylaw amendments at 2020 be closed at 7:41. Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, is there any discussion on the planning report?
So you're proposing a 3-year, is that what I read somewhere, 3 years?
Yeah. Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us for approval, and that's for the temporary use for the residential for 3 years.
I have one.
Yeah, you have a question? Councillor Brody?
So if they rented this house as a house, what if they can't get the tenant out of there at the end of 3 years? Which is a very legit, I mean, we have neighbors that can't get one out right now. Wintertime, you can't get tenants. Could this turn into a problem that we don't want?
Through Mayor Smith to Councillor Brody, I mean, it would become then, aside from the civil matter between the landowner and the tenant, we do have bylaw enforcement ability. Once that the rezoning or the temporary use is lifted, it goes back to commercial corridor with residential not permitted. So we do have bylaw enforcement action that could be required. I'm not familiar enough with the Landlord-Tenant Act to know how that would shake out, to be honest, just from the township's perspective through our bylaw.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Okay, so we have the recommendation for approval. Mover and seconder for that. Councillor McKinnon, seconded by okay, there's no seconder. Okay, so we need a motion either way of whatever it would be. So if we're looking for not approval, then looking for a deferral, or are we wanting to deny the application? I'm looking to council. Yeah, Councillor Clark.
Can I have a question? So is the person that owns it are they a local person?
From Mary Smith to Councillor Clark, no, they are not.
Okay, so we have an absentee landlord, and then there's no proposition from them that it would be for a family member or anything like that? There's no been any discussion at any time, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Yep, Councillor Brody.
I think I'd like to defer it. I would like just to know, I can just see problems arising later that maybe we don't want to deal with.
Well, it's not
that's my
set up as a
concern.
house right now, right? It's an office, it was
It
the
was an
old
office.
office, right?
It's
So
a video property.
are they proposing on doing any renovations or anything to make it more residential?
Through Mary Smith to Councillor Clark, he would be required to follow the change of use permit setup, in which he would have to address
Ingress and egress.
yeah, absolutely the Ontario Building Code for group C occupancy, as well as any fire codes. So I anticipate renovations as well.
So I guess the only concern I have is once you go, speaking from a perspective of a landlord, is once you go through those costs, is he just gonna come back in 3 years and ask for an extension on a temporary use, and is that something we're prepared to entertain? Because you have to think longer term, you're not gonna put all this money into a property if you're not gonna maximize it. And if that's not what that corridor is for.
Councillor Brody.
And just Mayor Smith or Mary and Sue, that's a valid point there. If we have expansion going on there, you know, there's a lot of action going on there. If we allow this, and then we do have problems, and then there is a hole up, I mean, that's gonna affect that area for us, area kid, if we could.
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, we were looking at our special policy areas and we're sort of making a concerted effort to channel all the commercial and industrial off 81 highway. We're making a conscious decision to focus on that, so this is sort of going backwards instead of front forwards, I think, with that.
And just to add to that, if all the changes are being made for residential, exactly what Councillor Clark was saying, is that's a lot of funds to change it back to residential for 3 years, and then to go back to commercial, it just doesn't, not to think about the financial side for the individual, but it just doesn't make any sense, because then you're right, they'll be going back in 3 years and just wanting an extension. And realistically, it should be something that is commercial. But I can also respect the fact that they're trying to figure something out so then they can have some type of income for that property.
Just to comment that they could be rented out as a commercial office building. So I mean, there's still potential for revenue. I mean,
So, through Curtis,
Yeah.
so when I was reading, correct me if I'm wrong, so they haven't been able to rent it since 2014, did I read that somewhere?
I don't know that I indicated the date.
For 4 years or whatever,
I think it was in the application.
was it in the application?
Yes.
I've been trying to lease the premises since 2014, but all my attempts to lease have failed due to only commercial use.
Due to only commercial use?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's been trying to rent it commercially, but has not been successful. Okay, well maybe his pricing model's wrong, or maybe it's so outdated that nobody wants to rent it.
but it was bought, correct? It was bought as a commercial.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a decision somehow.
I've made mine.
I know.
there isn't a residential house from the stoplight all the way past Ashwood Industries, I do not believe.
There's one, I think.
There's one.
Is there
There's
one?
one, yeah.
Okay.
There's one on that side of the road.
Passes, yeah.
I just have a problem here with it getting changed. I think they'll spend money on it to change it, and I think it would just be left again as a residential or ask for an extension, I do believe. I don't think I can support it.
So I'll make a motion that we, keep the permitted use as commercial and not allow for temporary, what's the word?
So you would like to deny the application.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I'll move that we deny the application.
Okay, seconder. Okay, Councillor Brody, any further discussion? I just want to make one comment. I think the only way that I would be able to support the application, if that was going to be the case, is if the temporary use was actually brought to an end during this term of council. So then it would not be able to continue. It would still be in our hands to make sure it wouldn't continue after the temporary time. That would be the only way that I'd like to continue it. So then it's not in 2023 where there's a new council on board and they just go, okay, it was temporary, so we may as well continue on with it, kind of thing. That's just my only comment. But we do have the motion on the table to resolve the council approve or to not approve, to deny the application Z01 2020. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And is there any questions at all for Aaron? Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow. I just one question. It kind of goes back to the delegation we had at 7:05 regarding the liquor license sales. So could you? I was just wondering if you could create a report in regards to, and it kind of goes around the whole topic of a use that is not actually permitted in a zone. Because that property is not the only one. There's several properties in the municipality where it's say agricultural or rural residential or whatever it is, and they're not conformity to the zoning bylaw, and it's a business or whatever it is, and it starts up and it continues on, and then they want to get into conformity, and council then, in my opinion, feels obligated to approve it because it's an existing business. And Councillor McKinnon made the comment that it's legal non-conforming. But the fact is that a lot of these legal non-conforming things were never legal, so they're actually just not conforming, in my opinion. So I was just wondering if you could create a report that kind of outlines what council could do with some of these issues, because this is one of many that are in our municipality, and council needs to look at these to make sure that if we do have the zoning out there, we have our official plan there as well, and we need to be utilizing that. And the problem is that someone builds a building or they start a business or they do whatever, and then it is there, and then they didn't actually go through a process. Whereas everyone else that's actually going through a process, they're actually doing it properly. And there's many of them out there that are just not conformity, and then it comes to a matter like this where you're looking for a liquor license or you're looking for expanding, double the size, and then you have to go through a site plan and you're wondering why you have to do that, but it's because they weren't never in conformity in the first place. So I don't know what I'm asking for, but I'm just saying council needs to know, we need a report kind of on what to do in those circumstances.
So, and if I could add, because you look at somebody like this, the applicants, they're coming to us, they're trying to make it better, do the right thing or whatever, but at the end of the day, why should they be held to a higher standard than somebody else who's not playing by the rules either? So it has to be uniform, because they're not the only one. Like it's rampant. Then it's been allowed to go on, and whether it was the inch and the mile game, I don't know, but I think we need to get a handle on this. So.
Aaron?
I do want to clarify too that legal non-conforming uses are those uses that are in existence prior to the establishment of the zoning bylaw. So that's not necessarily the case in this particular circumstance, but I can certainly look into providing you a report with some findings.
Okay, there's something else. Thank you so much, Aaron. And we'll move, we'll do correspondence, which we normally do at the beginning of the meeting. So the next section is correspondence with the upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. So our next meeting, the first one is the special policy area review, which is being held tomorrow night at the Kerwood Fire Hall at 7 p.m. The second one is the North Middle Secondary Plan meeting, January 30th at the Gemini Sportsplex. So that's happening, that's a development, a plan that's being brought forward by Stratford Paradox. Our next regular meeting is Monday, February 3rd, followed by February 18th. That's just after Family Day. The OGRE conference is from Sunday, February 23rd to the 26th. And then our next meeting after that is March 2nd. So our first item for correspondence is from the Middlesex Center Archives, and they have their 2020 Heritage Week, and that event is being held on February 22nd. If anyone's interested in going. The second item is from Stratford, and it's the Civic Night Invitation, and that's being held on June 16th. Our recommended readings, item number 3 is from Enbridge, it's the Ontario Energy Board Notice. Item number 4 is from Blue Water Recycling Association, it's their January 2020 notes. Item number 5 is from OGRA Board of Directors, and it's their notice of poll. Item number 6 is from the Ministry of Child, Community and Social Services, Ontario Poverty Reduction Strategy. Item number 7 is from the OPP, and it's their news bulletin for January. Item 8, Ministry of Transportation, a draft transportation plan for Southwestern Ontario. Item number 9 is from Stratford Paradox, and it's a notice of public meeting for the Creekside Meadows, and that was received December 18th. Item number 10 is a notice of decision for OPA 01 and Z06 2019 for Dortons. Item number 11 is from the Middlesex London Health Unit, and it's their minutes from October, November, and December. And just so you know, with that correspondence, I spoke with Councillor Kelly Elliott. She's the Deputy Mayor from Tim Centre and also a Board of Health member. And I asked her to bring forward the suggestion that instead of sending out the minutes of the Board of Health meetings, which are lengthy and long, and you then have to really look at the report to figure out what's going on, if they could kind of put together like a Board of Directors briefing notes afterwards, so that it's more so, and then they can also post on social media so that people know what's actually going on at those meetings, because I was on the Board of Health, and I'm no longer on the Board of Health, so I know what's going on, but at the same time, I'm not on it, so I don't want to feel like I'm a board member still by reading through their minutes.
So just a Coles notes.
Just Coles notes, what's going on, because really you don't need to know everything that's going on. The action required items, so number 12 is from the Accessible Bayfield Conservation Authority, and it's their news release and the conservation of the year. Do you have anyone who would like to nominate? Seeing none. Item number 13 is from St. Clair Conservation Authority, and it's their 2020 large stock program.
So I'm not too bright. Can I ask a question on this? So Betty, and you might be able to answer it. So is this the same pool that Jeff Little used to mention about trees being available, or this is a different program?
Yeah.
Okay.
We will sell to municipalities, and they'll sell to landowners, and they'll plant for landowners. Where the municipality, if they buy them, they plant them themselves generally along the roadsides.
Okay, so this is not for Sue Clark to call up and order 50 trees?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can as an individual,
Yes,
you can go and
yes,
look at
there's form there that.
Okay, I didn't know if it was
attached.
allowed,
Yes.
if it was just for, because it says dear member municipalities, okay.
But further to your question, so we do have a tree fund for Adelaide Metcalfe, and we need to get a fault on that.
Yes. It's a reserve.
And it's a reserve fund, and I think it was an individual that lived in the former Metcalfe that donated X amount of money, and I think we're using the interest from that, I think, to then purchase trees, and then people
And
can
when does
ask
that
for it.
happen?
So that's in the fall, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
It's not been widely broadcast in the past, that's why we're trying to develop a policy so we can let everyone know and take advantage of it.
Yeah, because it seemed to be the best kept secret there, so.
It was just a handful of people that knew.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So do we have any areas that we want to do any tree planting? I assume that's why you put that into the action required.
Yeah, I didn't know if council was interested in
constitution with?
I've got enough trees and enough leaves and enough dead limbs.
You're probably trying to get trees out, not in, right, Coulter?
More trees.
Alright, and the next one is from the town of Tecumseh, and it's a resolution regarding 911 missed dials.
I thought we should support. I know this has been an issue up north and in some areas close to Wardsville, like they get calls and they can't locate the person.
Okay, so moved by Councillor McKinnon. Do you have a seconder for supporting that? Okay, Councillor Brody. Is there any discussion at all? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so we need a motion to resolve that council receive and file correspondence items CC1 to CC13. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay. So our committee minutes, and those are the Joint Health and Safety Committee, and that was the minutes of October 3rd, 2019. We're moving seconder to receive those. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, moving into staff reports. Our first one is from our fire chief, and it's the annual fire department activity report for 2019. Chief.
Thank you. So before you have the annual report, the activity report from last year, both for call responses by type and then training activities, inspections, and public ed. So the call volume for last year, I would say, is average. The year before was not average; it was high. So yeah, it was a normal year as far as calls are concerned. And just a few notes on it. So the actual fire calls is only 14.8% of the total calls, number of calls, which is typical province-wide. So the most of the elements, of course, are made up of motor vehicle collisions, medical calls, and then some others. And then just a note on the training report is that 2 firefighters have completed their NFPA 1001, 1072, and 1006. So out of the 24 firefighters, 6 are NFPA 1001, level 1 and level 2, NFPA 1072, and NFPA 1006, chapter 6 certified. And the rest are all but one are grandfathered into this certification. And then also, as indicated in the report, inspection numbers were down in 2019, and that was due to the county dropping that service, and we have no inspectors. And on financial impacts, all expenses occurred, and the above comes out of the annual fire operating budget. And then some of the NBC calls are recouped through invoicing the FCO or insurance companies. So under the first attachment there for calls, there is one mistake, and I haven't been able to figure out why this software program did that, but for vehicle collisions, it says $5,962, which doesn't make sense. I went back through it, but I don't know how or why it did that. But everything else makes sense. So if you have any questions, if not, that's my report.
Okay, Councillor McKinnon.
Under your the totals by type, the number 31, the alarm system equipment malfunction, you had 7. Was that to one property, or was it more than one property?
No, it's more than one.
Is it?
There was one property where we had to go twice,
Okay.
but other than that, no, it was all different properties.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
So to follow on that, is there as a charge levied if it's malfunction, or if it's not that prevalent, so you've not had to do that?
No, there was at one time, and I don't know if it still is, there was a bylaw.
Like a nuisance thing?
If if it went beyond so many false alarm calls, they could be invoiced. I just forget where that is, if it's in their fees for service or someplace.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't even exist anymore, but
Okay,
it's not a huge problem, so.
yeah, okay. I have two other questions. So if you need a fire inspection done, how are you handling that?
Okay, so in December, I had a request for one, and so I reached out to the OFM, and actually this coming Thursday, they've sent someone, and they're going to do that inspection, plus, while they're here, they're gonna do another inspection for me, and that's for a change of use.
Okay,
So those two they're gonna do.
good. Okay.
There's only two of them province-wide, and they're spread thin, so they can only do so much, but
But if you contact them in December and you're coming down, I guess that's not too bad. Yeah, it's maybe not great, but it's not too bad. And then my last question is, have you, it wouldn't be broken out here in this manner, because it would be fall under one of the medical sections, but have you had to administer any of the naloxone kits?
no, we haven't.
Okay. So,
Councilor Brody, you have any questions at all?
No.
I just had two. The first one is with the staff hours. I was just curious, and it kind of got me thinking. So with the 101, which is the out of response area, so it's 54 minutes, and there's 14 personnel. And I was wondering, was it halfway, like going to the site, was it called off, or is it? I was just trying to figure out the staff hours, if that's the total amount, or if that was, because that one seems quite low. For 14.
Usually what happens with those, out of area, it's usually on the 402. And so we either discover that it is out of our area, we cancel en route. So, but it's still 14 firefighters are en route.
Okay. So then after it looks to be like 3 or 4 minutes, it was called off.
Exactly.
Everything to get the 54 minutes. And then the one above it, which is the emergency exercise, there's no staff hours on that.
Yeah, reason being is just because of this software. So in the database, I made it like a call, but the firefighters that attended that, they weren't even paid for that. They did it just because. So for that reason, you don't see that in there. But there were, I think there was about 9 of us that attended that.
Okay. And then my last question, I saw that we got the donation of the grain bin rescue unit, which is really great, from the 3 community partners. And I see under the training with the 2 firefighters that took the grain bin rescue course,
Right.
which is great. How many firefighters have that course that are able to use that piece of equipment?
Okay, so they took that course back in August, and it was kind of treated like a train-the-trainer course. So they did, and we actually did it not last Saturday before, at our firehouse. So we did one training session on it. So there's about I don't know, from 12 to 15 that did the in-house training, and we're going to do more and more on it. So we did this one right inside the fire hall. We had a gravity box wagon full of weed in there, and then we ran through it with the equipment, all the safety equipment that goes along with it. So just to add to that, so there was, I think it was 9 firefighters last year that took the confined space course. So there's all different types of training that's involved with grain bin rescue. So we're just doing it pieces at a time.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that we had more than the 2, and that's perfect that it's the trainer, so then everybody can be trained. Perfect. Okay, if there's no
yeah,
more.
hopefully you never need to use it, but you
Yeah.
know, that's not always the case.
That's right.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we need a motion to resolve the council receive the annual fire department activity report for 2019 as presented by the chief.
So good.
Okay, Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, our next report is from our Public Works Manager, Coulter.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. I just have two things today. The first one being Callan Road landfill is at full capacity as of December 2019. I've met with the Administrative Environment on site, and we are working together on a closure plan for the landfill. I'm working with staff on a report to address moving forward with a single landfill operating. And the second thing is the junior hires in the road department have been doing excellent in their new positions and are performing at a high level. The financial impact. The requirements under the MOECP for landfills post-closure are being determined. Example, monitoring, water testing. There will be costs associated with the final leveling and covering of landfill cells. I anticipate that there will be an impact on the school road landfill related to the increased traffic, which may require additional on-site personnel. The costs will be incorporated in the 2020 budget. Recommendation will be resolved by council accept the Public Works Information Report prepared by myself.
Number one's a big one. I was kind of freaking out when I heard that. Councillor Brody.
Question on number one.
We do, it said
Yeah.
2019 in the annual report a long time ago.
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
been years before that actually. We've really
We've been
extended it.
extending it for quite a while.
Yeah, I think when I first got on council, it was supposed to be done within a couple of years, so, yeah.
So the question on number one, just when is that gonna be public?
It's public
It's
right now.
public as of
Public
today.
now, but is it gonna be in the
The report will be on
tax
Monday.
letter or
We'll
whatever?
have it on Monday and then the decision can be made by council, what they want to do to accommodate it, so. Because there will be no more added expense, but there will be additional expense to, move it to the school landfill, so.
Councillor Clark.
So Coulter, what's the lifespan left on this Callan one? Cause it's not, is it a couple of years or what do we think?
School.
Or school road, sorry, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of years left over
Yeah?
there.
Okay.
They do an annual report over there. They say there's only 4 years, but in talking with Jeff and Ellen, they say that just to make you aware and do some reports on it, but there's got to be 25 years left of life over there, I think. Anyways,
As long as we're not
a lot
like
of
in a 2-year window or something.
No,
Okay, okay.
And to add to that, we're not putting our weekly garbage pickup at that landfill anymore. It's now going to Twin Creeks Waste Management, so that's helping as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all on this report? So Kathy, you said our next meeting we'll have a report on what we're doing and everything else? Okay. So, no motion to resolve the council receive the Public Works Manager's Public Works Information Report as prepared by the Public Works Manager. Information shared again. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Clark, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And I heard you wanted to slip out just in case the weather's bad, and we understand that, so.
Is it coming, the weather's coming, or
it's-
you don't know?
We don't know. It's like this morning, I think there's going to be anything, but there was.
Well, when I came in, there was a little, like a 3:30 municipality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. See you guys.
Okay. Okay, our next report is from our clerk. Ready to do the first one, so I'll need a second.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. So this is my second and last report for tonight. So while I was putting dates on paper for council to see ahead of time for April, May, and June, I played around with the idea of perhaps council doing a 6-month trial period to hold the first meeting of the month during the daytime. It could be at 10 a.m. or it could be at 3 p.m. The reason I have 2 different times, 10 a.m. because of course we open at 9 and that'll give staff time to get together what they need to get together for last minute reports for council. But 3 o'clock is to give consideration because planner Erin Best, she is here on Mondays and she does use council chambers to meet with any planning applicants. There's some advantages and of course there's disadvantages, and it was just something I was just playing around with. And when I was looking at our strategic plan, I noticed one thing that stood out to me the most, and that was not staying status quo. So this would certainly mix things up a bit, and it might help with maybe some potential cost savings with meals and stakeholders such as consultants and engineers and lawyers and et cetera. The financial impact, there's no major financial impacts to the township budget. While there are some potential cost savings, it's practical to say that daytime meetings would not impact the budget. So my recommendation is that council receive the regular council meeting schedule staff report as presented by myself. And then I have another recommendation if council chooses to try the 6-month trial, and then if you do, you can pick a time that you feel might be worth looking at, or if not, we'll just stay at 7 p.m. for April, May, and June.
Okay, Councillor Payne?
I like the idea of going one afternoon and one evening, and I picked the time of 1 o'clock. That still gives air in the morning here, and it gives a nice start for the council meeting that could run until 5 or 6. But we used it at both municipalities that I worked at, and it worked well. One in the afternoon and one at night.
Okay, Councillor Brody?
I am totally against the idea for multiple reasons. One, I'm young, got a job, that really cuts into having to do that. Honestly,
That's true.
if I was gonna run for council and I knew I had to do it 2 times during the day, I probably wouldn't be here. So that's another for maybe future councils if you. And another reason, I do believe that that's gonna take time away from daily activities for our CAO and our clerk, because you're gonna have your 2 or 3 hour, 4 hour span in that time when they can be getting more work done because they're not gonna stay at night to make up for that time.
Just to follow up, basically we found that in Southwest with people working night shifts, it allowed them the opportunity to make the council meeting. So yeah, that's why it worked well for us.
Just to add to Councillor Brody's comments with the daytime meeting and everything else, just thinking, for myself or whoever's in the mayor's seat, it's also hard for them because there's already 2 county council meetings that are in the afternoon as well. So having whoever is sitting in as the mayor for Adelaide Metcalfe, you are really shortening and making the list really small as to who can actually run for the position. For myself, for the last number of years, I've been in a position where it's, it works with afternoon meetings and everything else. I would think it would be a little more challenging to add on another meeting a month during the daytime. But that's, myself, but I think realistically, switching to an morning or afternoon meeting would really cut down who potentially would like to run and who can run for council. But that's my thought.
So when I decided to go down this road,
Yeah.
I knew my schedule is pretty tight, and I do sit on other boards and have other responsibilities. So it's kind of the first and third of the month. So when you start changing things up, I have difficulty sometimes getting that in here. And I appreciate that a day meeting might be nice, but any given day it may not work. So that's the only input I have. So I'm kind of the same as Mike. We knew what we were signing up for, and to your point, if they want to make changes down the road for another council, then I guess you'd, because the reality is there's so much conversation around how do you attract people to municipal councils or and politics in general, and unless you're retired or a millionaire, it makes it pretty difficult. So yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
So I think
yeah.
we wanted to just do this.
So I think, so the first motion is to resolve that council receive the regular council meeting schedule staff reports presented by the clerk. Move in second for that, Councillor Brody and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And then the next one, what's your recommendation? So realistically, what we're doing is we are approving the list of dates.
April, May, and June, and we'll start at 7.
And
Do you need-
one's after the long weekend or something, or what did I see?
We don't need to actually approve this because it's in our, it's our
Well,
procedure
it is
bylaw.
in our procedure bylaw, but if you've noticed, we've been changing around dates, so I figured if I put it in a staff report
Yeah.
and lay it out black and white, then people can look in advance and
Yeah.
they'll know that those are the dates.
And the 19th is a Tuesday, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the 18th is Victoria Day.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on seconder to approve those dates that are listed in there. Okay, Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody, and that's to stick with the 7 o'clock start time.
Yes.
All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Just a suggestion, so at County Council, we approve the following year's schedule in, I think it's October. And I think that's a great way to do it. I know that, really it's in the procedural bylaw and what the meeting dates are, that's what they are. Most people, if they're going on vacation, they will somewhat know in a 6-month period if they're going on vacation or not able to be there, whatever it is. So I would say it'd be nice if, Jennifer was to put a report forward in October of say 2020 for the 2021 year, and then everybody knows what the dates are, and then if we absolutely need to change it because we have 3 people away, then we change it, and if we have 2 members away, in my opinion, we stick to the meeting because that's the meeting date.
Three's a quorum.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So that's it from you?
That is it for me, yes.
Excellent. So we'll move into the CAO Treasurer's Report. Kathy.
Take
Take a drink of water.
Sorry. My first report is the invoice payment approval for the period December 12th, 2019 to January 22nd, 2020. And the total of the checks submitted for approval is $1,219,703.62.
Is there any questions at all on the accounts? Seeing none, we'll have the motion to resolve the council receive the invoice payment approval for December 12th, 2019 to January 2020, January 22nd, 2020 staff report as presented by the CEO Treasurer. Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. This 2020 thing is just not working for me yet. Oh, and we have the other one, which is, no, that's the same one.
It's to approve the.
Oh, it's to approve the actual accounts.
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to approve the actual accounts? Councilor Clark and Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Item number 2 is in regards to the procurement policy. A draft policy was presented to council at the December 16th, 2019 regular meeting for review. No comments on the policy have been received to date. There is no financial impact of introducing a new procurement policy. A new policy will be reflective of purchasing best practices that in turn will ensure the most effective use of township funds throughout the organization. All activities around the purchase of goods and services using public funds should be fair and transparent, in addition to acquiring the best value for money towards public expenditures. The recommendation is that you approve the procurement policy report as presented, and if you have no concerns, we approve the procurement policy as presented, and then an applicable bylaw be prepared for the next meeting.
Okay, Councilor McKinnon?
Through you to Kathy, just under section 7, the procedure, the second paragraph, do you mean email instead of through mail?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Should be email, yes.
And I'm sorry, I didn't look at my iPad before, and I would have called you and given you that.
Okay, is there any other questions or
As
comments?
amended?
Or corrected.
As
Yes.
amended.
Okay, so the first one is resolve that council receive the procurement policy staff report as presented by the CEO Treasurer. That's Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. The next one is resolve that council approve the procurement policy as amended, as presented by the CEO Treasurer and amended or something.
As
The
amended.
clerk will get that fixed up.
Yes.
And that the applicable bylaw be prepared by the clerk.
So moved.
Okay, Councilor Clark and Councilor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Next report, number 3, is the 2020 municipal insurance renewal. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe is insured with Frank Cowan Company through HMS Insurance and Financial Services in Strathroy. The 2020 premium for the insurance renewal is $84,353 for the year, not including taxes. And it is an increase of $7,885 over the 2019 premium of $74,468. If we make any changes to the program, the total premium will change. I have included an attachment from a letter from Catherine Veltman of HMS Insurance and from December 13, 2019, and it does explain that there is escalating insurance costs throughout the municipal world, and it's due to the escalation of municipal claims, generally caused through liability. Taking this, we have a premium increase of 10.3%, and due to our excellent claims history, we are one of the lowest in increases, so we are successful that way. She did point out a couple of options that could be looked at, which staff will look at. Program option number 7, the facility user solution, to determine if this coverage is warranted, as well as the associated cost, and we'll bring that back to council for consideration. Also included is the escalating cost of municipal claims, and that's a document prepared by Frank Cowan Insurance to explain to council what's going on. And then the 2020 municipal insurance program has also been included for your review. We do have some hard copies if you prefer to keep a hard copy with you. The recommendation is that you receive the 2020 municipal insurance program report as prepared by the CEO Treasurer, and that we approve the 2020 municipal insurance program as presented. And if as council or as staff work through the options and there's anything that we would be interested in, we'll bring a report back to council for the amendment to the program.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor McKinnon, that's to receive the report. Seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. The next one is to approve the 2020 municipal insurance program as presented by the CEO Treasurer. Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
If I can add something.
Yeah.
It's not just the municipal claims. We're finding that just your regular insurance companies, the problem with things is these automobile accidents have a long tail. So oftentimes you've got a claim, like an accident that happened 3 or 4 years ago, and it's just showing up now, and probably 80% of them are head injuries, which are a very difficult thing to defend, and that's the primary reason, and the reinsurers are scrambling too. It's the primary reason why insurance rates are going up. It's the number one driver. So we got off kind of easy actually at 10%. So yeah, sad but true.
Okay.
Item number 4 is an employee recognition policy. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe does not currently have a policy which acknowledges long-term service by employees. Firefighters are eligible to receive Service Bar Awards through the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. Implementing a plan to recognize employees who work for the Township long-term with a token of appreciation will create a more positive work environment. In addition, Council will be more aware of the commitment of the employees. The value of the service awards is structured to increase as the years of service increases. There is no option in the policy for a cash award, and the employee does have an option to select a gift, receive a gift certificate, or have a charitable donation made in their name. The financial impact, the annual aggregate amount of the long service awards will be included in the annual operating budget. It is not anticipated that there will be a large impact on the budget. The recommendation is that Council receive or approve the employee recognition policy report as presented by the CEO Treasurer, and that as Council so chooses, they approve the employee recognition policy as drafted.
Is there any questions at all? Councillor Brody?
So the years of service in your draft, would that include firefighters?
They would be included in their own program because they have certain ones that are awarded to the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office at certain intervals. So.
But they're just getting a fire patch. Are they?
If I may, I
go ahead.
explain. So, after 5 years of service, all they get is a 5-year pin, and that's every 5 years. After 20 years of service, and you have to be careful and not get these two mixed up. After 20 years of service, they get prevention, so it's exemplary service award. So it's actually a medal with a certificate, and after 25 years, they get another one, and that's long service award from the province as well, with another medal. So they get those, and then their spouses or partners, they get a gift as well, just a brooch. Something that started many years ago in Adelaide Metcalfe, actually before Adelaide Metcalfe was amalgamated, was after 25 years of service, they get a watch from the township. At that time, it was through the fire board. So then after 2001, that continued for a while, and it was a gift given by council. And then that was kind of done away with for some reason. I don't know what happened, oversight, whatever. So then the association got on with it. So after 25 years of service, they get a watch, and the association pays for it. That's how it is currently.
Councilor Brody?
Just an comment, I think they're a valuable part of our township. I'd like to see something in there for years of service for firemen as well, to be very honest.
Okay. Any comments on that from members of council? Okay. We have the policy in front of us. So we have the resolutions which is resolved that council receive the employee recognition policy staff report as presented by the CEO treasurer. So we received the report. Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And the next one is resolved that council approve the employee recognition policy as drafted by the CEO treasurer. Mover and seconder. Councilor McKinnon. Seconder.
Can I speak or no, I can't?
Yeah, you can.
Oh.
Well, we don't have a seconder, so it's not seconded yet.
Yeah.
So we don't see a seconder, so
Yeah,
back to
so
discussion.
I'm just following up on Mike's comment because they are valuable to, like, they're part of the team, right? So, I guess just where I struggle is, you know, do they put a monetary value on the badge and the pin, and what would that work out to be, or, you know, or do you, I just think it's a little short-sighted to not include them.
I want to throw out one thing is that if we're looking at everyone, then why exclude council members?
Then you don't have to either. Like, you can
Yeah.
include everyone then, basically, because they'd be the same, I guess. Or it says here, value of the service award for the part-time employees shall be half the value listed, so we could even treat council and firemen as half because they are getting something. I just think it's a good, they should be recognized. And even if it's the half amount, I think council and more importantly the firemen could fall under the half rule. That's what I'd like to see anyway.
Councilor Fan?
I like the idea of the watch. Money comes and goes, but a watch is tangible and you can have it engraved, you know, from the council. But wonder what your thoughts are in regards to money versus watch.
That's just for 25 years, so.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, no, they really do appreciate the watch, and the watch is engraved. It's got Adelaide Metcalfe Fire Department right in the face of the watch, and we give folks, and they have that on file wherever. So it's something that's been done for years and years. So I think they'd appreciate to keep that going.
Or to resurrect it. What's the value
No,
of those watches?
So it's continued on.
Oh, it is.
It has
The
continued
fire chief
on.
has said that it was just a period of time that it stopped, but it's continued on.
But you are doing it.
Yes.
And what's the value of the watch, if you don't mind me asking?
It seems to vary from year to year.
Oh, okay.
And the watch physically is a little bit different from year to year. I'd say the average $250 to $300.
Yeah, so you're in the range, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Brody?
After I read this and seen the half thing, I like the idea of the half, because they're not full-time, but I think they need to be, they're a valuable part of our township.
Well, we couldn't do without them, so, yeah.
Okay, so then will this, how do we pop that in there, or it's just?
We'll just leave it as employees, and anyone who receives a T4 is an employee, so that's how we will
Oh, so then it's covered.
gauge it. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
all there.
perfect.
Okay.
So I can second that then? Because we have a mover, right?
Yeah,
You just
okay,
don't
so
have-
it's moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Clark. And just for clarification, so it'll be all the volunteer firefighters will fall under the years of service as part-time. The chief though, because he's a full-time employee, would be falling under the regular
Correct.
amounts.
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Number 5 is the 2020 township budget process. As you know, council needs to start working on a budget for 2020. We're looking for a time frame when council would like to begin. The anticipation is to begin in mid-February and have the final budget approved by the end of April. We do need to advertise the date and time of the budget meeting so that people are aware of it, so our ratepayers are aware. And then along with the print advertising, the township website and Facebook account are also utilized to provide notice at no cost. And the recommendation is to schedule a budget review meeting for mid-February. And we're just looking for council to set the date, what works for you.
I assume our deputy mayor didn't send us dates before?
No. We can tentatively book it and just confirm on Monday. But we do have a notice going out with our tax bills on Monday, so I would like to have it on the notice that goes out at the budget meeting, just as a public awareness portion of it, so.
So you can just confirm with her
We can
tomorrow?
confirm,
or-
yes.
yeah.
So what were you thinking again? Which month?
Mid-February.
Who wants to start throwing some dates out?
I'm gone the 11th to the 14th.
Do you want a day meeting or a night meeting?
A day meeting for that stuff.
Because I'm just saying seasonality for you might be okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
If it is with everybody else, I mean, it's.
And how long of a timeline? Like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours?
Yeah, afternoon.
Six,
I would say
seven.
probably good afternoon if
Okay.
you're going to do a day meeting. It would.
So the 17th is family day, the 18th, or is that that's the week we're looking at?
Yes.
So the 18th, I could do that. We have a township meeting that evening,
Mm-hmm.
so I assume we don't want to do that.
You have county council that
No, I have county council that day as well, so I could do the morning.
library board?
I'm not on there anymore. Yeah, they clicked me off and I became a
You're
past
good
warden.
now with everything.
It's exciting that, when you're warden in the first year of the term, you're on everything. After that,
You're
they
good.
say adios, old Mr. What's-His-Face. The 19th, I have a county council, a county budget meeting, so that doesn't work for me. And then the 20th is, I can make work, and then the 21st is the Strathroy District Chamber of Commerce Leaders Luncheon, and that's from 11 till 1, which I'll be attending and speaking.
I can do the 20th. Do you want what time? 1 o'clock, you said? Would you prefer morning or afternoon, Kathy? Doesn't matter.
It's totally up to you. If you tell me what date, we'll make it work.
My calendar's out in the truck.
Oh.
I don't know what I can do.
So do you want to
Set the
tentatively
dates
say the Thursday, February the 20th? And 10 or 1, what do you want?
1?
Yeah, because we'll have had for lunch, I won't be cranky. Okay.
1?
1 p.m. Okay.
So that was a motion to resolve that council of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe meet on February 20th, I think, 2020, at 1 to review the 2020 draft township budget. Who wants to move that? Councillor Clark,
It's
second
my
by
idea.
Councillor Brody.
It's my idea.
All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And then we need a motion to resolve that council receive the 2020 budget process staff report. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Clark, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Report number 6 is in regards to stopping the train whistle at the Pike Road crossing. It's just an update. In April of 2019, council directed staff to contact the operator of the railway line and investigate the feasibility of the request to stop the train whistling at the Pike Road crossing. Council also asked that a representative of the railway line be invited to attend a council meeting to discuss railway crossing safety. Jeff Little, the former Public Works Manager, tried unsuccessfully to arrange for a representative from Canadian National to attend a council meeting to discuss the feasibility of the request to have the train whistle cease at Pike Road crossing. When Jeff left the township, there was no additional follow-up with CN. I have reviewed the Transport Canada guideline applied to stop train whistling at a public grade crossing to confirm that the process has not changed since 2019. As per the guideline, the first step in the process is a mandatory consultation with the railway company. An email requesting an opportunity to discuss the feasibility of cessation of the whistle at the Pike Road crossing has been sent to the CN public inquiry line. There is no financial impact to find out if the request is feasible. Costs will begin to occur if an engineer is engaged to complete an assessment of the crossings. And I will report that I did receive a response late in the day last Friday, and it will be on your agenda for Monday in regards to CN's response to the requirements. The recommendation is that council accept the stopping train whistles at Pike Road crossing update as presented by the CAO treasurer.
Is there any questions at all? Okay, mover and seconder for the report, Councillor Brody and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
The last report is a financial report including payroll, which was circulated tonight. So it includes the tax arrears report as well as the payroll report for the month of December.
Are there any questions at all? So a motion to resolve that council receive the financial report including the December 2019 payroll is presented. Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, and then we just have this motion.
I don't believe we can set that right now.
Okay.
We're gonna defer.
Oh yeah. Okay, moving under our agenda, talk about other business. Okay, do we have anything for other business at all?
Oh, yes, I do.
Councillor Clark?
I just wondered how we're making out with the sidewalk engineering report, if we have an update, because that was awarded to them a few months ago. I just wondered if we've had any communication or if they've at least committed to deliver the report within a certain amount of time.
Mayor Smith, I've been pushing him to get our report completed. We have bits and pieces of the Pike Napperton area. He is working on 2nd Street and the Center Road corridor as well. He has been advised that he was to have it delivered by the end of December and that no further invoices will be paid until we receive our report.
Okay.
He will be scheduled to come on the day of the budget to present his report, so you can understand.
Oh, on February 20th
Yes.
is coming? Okay,
We will arrange for him to be at that meeting or a meeting in that area. It's easier for him to explain what he's presenting than for us to get a report and try to explain it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Councillor Brody?
I guess one other question that regards kind of the same thing is office scenario update and park update. Is that all going to be before budget time?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor McKinnon?
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Kathy. The drainage petition signed by Dougal Leach and Wade Ingold, I wondered where that was. Wade was asking about that the other day.
As far as I read through, they have gone to the engineer.
Okay, so that would have been months ago. They have to comply to the Drainage Act, which says what, 90 days? They're supposed to, or is it 3 months?
They have 6 months.
Six?
I believe they have 6 months to
Is
take
it
action
6?
on a drainage petition.
Okay, so it's there, I would think. I think it was in the summer, or maybe even, you might want to ask them to look at when that petition was handed to them. There was a holdup because Dougal passed away, but then it was confirmed that Carol, his wife, still wanted to proceed, and she was the owner of the farm now.
Would you read not be able to?
Through Mayor Curtis to Councillor McKinnon, I sent Wade to Streets to be appointed, and they've acknowledged it, so it's just a matter of waiting for them with their report.
Okay.
That was, I want to say September, when that finally went through.
Wow. That's a long time.
We get confirmation in December.
Thank you.
Yes.
If I may add, we generally advise people who are petitioning that it's a 3-year process from when they file the petition to where they see some work start. And that's delayed because of just waiting for engineering reports to get done.
Okay, is there anything else for other business? Oh, it's update that I believe it was January 3rd. I attended the Curly Fireman's awards night and Christmas dinner. There was, we were speaking about the 25-year watches. We did present one of those, and there was a number. It wasn't as many this year for the awards. I think there was what, 3 or 4.
3.
So it was a good night overall, and every year Donna Patterson, she puts on a great meal. She wasn't able to be there at that dinner, but that's my understanding. Is I don't know if we've got an update if she's doing well, but she was in the hospital at that time. But her daughter did an excellent job and continued on the tradition for that meal. So I think everybody enjoyed it. So it was a good time.
And
Yeah.
sorry, from the Natalie Green, our advisor from the OFM attended as well.
That's nice.
Okay. So if there's nothing else,
Just one more thing while I'm thinking of it, just to verbally declare, I do have a declaration of interest from Deputy Mayor Hendricks that she did fill out to declare pecuniary interest with the 705 delegation with Sydenham Ridge Estates, so that will be on file even though she wasn't here.
okay, with that we have our bylaws. So the first one is resolved that the third and final reading be given to bylaw number 67, 2019, zoning bylaw amendment. Application 06, 2019 ordinance, and the bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal be attached. Okay, Councillor Cannon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And then moving into the bylaws for 2020, resolve that all 3 readings be given to bylaw number 1 of 2020, the tidy yard bylaw amended fee schedule, bylaw number 2 of 2020, interim tax levies, and bylaw number 3 of 2020, the zoning bylaw amendment for Z01 2020 for that number of company, and bylaw number 4 of 2020, the confirmed council proceedings, and the bylaws be signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal be attached.
So we're not approving bylaw 3?
Oh, no, not.
No.
All right. All right, now we will not be.
Good catch. We're not doing bylaw number 3. We probably won't have bylaw number 3 in this, or you're going to switch them all.
I can, and so I can change the confirming council proceedings to bylaw number 3.
Okay. So number 1 is tidy yard, number 2 is the interim tax levy, and number 3 is now the confirmed council proceedings.
Correct.
Okay.
Moved.
Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And then if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn at 8:47. Councillor Cannon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor?